are we headed?
Well, I'm headed to Michael's Air Force Academy graduation. Since I'm a real ID,
We'll give Michael our best.
I'll just be here.
Be your Real ID self today. To learn how, visit tsa.gov/realid or your local DMV.
Hey, I'm Keith Spiro from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is WWL-870 afternoon talk show host Scoot Pesant. Scoot, over the years you've had big hair and big glasses. Which is more key to your persona, do you think?
Probably the hair.
Probably the hair. It is your signature. And it's still great.
Yeah, listen, I'm very fortunate, I'm very fortunate.
We'll talk about big hair, big glasses, and much more this week on Let's Talk.
We're local and educational.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by.
At Villery's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villery's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villery's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams. Saints, LSU, Tulane, and Pelicans. Breaking it down for us to the best we have in the state. Lenny Vangilder of CrescentCitySports.com. Jim Derry of NOLA.com and also The Attitude Podcast. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming down. As always, before we get started, I'd like to let everybody know a little bit about what you guys are involved in. Lenny, why don't you take it first?
Crescent City Sports, it's 24/7, 365 when it comes to sports, but even in the summertime when you think things are slowing down a little bit, it really doesn't. Crescent City Sports Prep Summer League just began on Tuesday. The rain we've had the last couple of days isn't exactly the best thing for playing baseball, but still that'll be going on through the month of June into early July with full coverage, of course, with game recaps, live streams at CrescentCitySports.com, and of course, like everyone, a lot of focus in Baton Rouge this weekend on the baseball regionals. We'll have full coverage there as well.
There you go. Jim, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to have Jim's with me every Monday on the radio show at 4:35. But you can catch Jim again on his podcast. Tell us all about it.
Oh, we had a great podcast on Wednesday.
We surely did.
I had a very special guest.
He couldn't find anybody else, so he called me.
So we have a lot of fun every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 a.m. live Central Time on YouTube. The Attitude Podcast. It's Attitude with a D in front of it. It's we talk a little bit about everything, sort of like Inside New Orleans, except we're probably a little bit more focused on the Saints, which is not easy to do this time of year when you talk. I mean, you can only talk about, we're going to talk about today, but you can only talk about OTAs so much. You can only talk about Shuck versus Rattler so much, but we do that. And, like Lenny said, there's a lot going on in Baton Rouge this weekend. We'll be talking about the LSU regionals on Friday's show, and of course, probably a little bit on Monday's show. We'll have fun with it, and then we'll be talking about it again on Monday. But a lot of fun.
And you two guys go way back, right?
We do. I believe that I took Lenny's spot when he left the Times-Picayune almost 35 years ago. Not to date Lenny or I, but yeah.
Once upon a time, sports. When I was in college, that's what I did. I was worked a couple of days a week till like 1 a.m. trying to get the old scoreboard page out, and
couldn't leave until the last game was over.
That's it. You could never leave.
And they don't do it like that anymore. But we're So we're still at the time speaking.
Right.
Now it's changed hands, and I've been let go and brought back. I don't know, 4 times. Who's counting? But I'm still there, and now I'm doing the podcast, and it's been fun. And we're trying to enjoy it. And then, of course, on the side, like Lenny does, is a play-by-play guy for Crescent City Sports.
Right.
I do the same for VSN on the side, and have some fun. We're looking forward to this lull right now. Lenny's got the summer league, and Crescent City Sports has a summer league. We don't have a lot going on at VSN, so it's kind of, I'm going to have withdrawals.
Right.
I haven't done play-by-play in about 3 weeks, so
Right.
I'm getting a little antsy. Looking forward.
You
to
could always jump in front of the mirror and
Yeah. I can do it with my girls at home. They'll listen.
Let's start with Saints, and obviously, as Jim mentioned, OTA is hard to really kind of decipher what's going on there: shorts, t-shirts, helmets, etc. But there have been a couple of things that have happened, and the first thing is, again, maybe we figured out what's going to happen with the offensive line now, right? Again, when Banks started off as the left tackle, they moved Fuaga back to his right tackle position. The one thing that we were looking to see, again, what were they going to do with Trevor Penning? Again, we've all talked about the possibility of, again, him moving to guard. It looks like, again, they're going to move him to left guard, which I think would be the best spot for him and maybe salvage his career, much like we see with Andres Beast, much like we saw with Becton up in Philadelphia, where Moore was there. Lenny, I'll take you first. Your thoughts on this movement within the line. Do you think that's what we're going to see going forward? Do you think that Penning can play the guard position?
Well, I think what we're going to find out is who the 5 best players are and what the best combination is position-wise to try to get these guys out here. Because let's face it, like we've seen guys make moves at positions, sometimes resuscitate their careers. You bring up Becton, and might be the case with Penning. What's the best way to line up at tackle? Is it right now, as you've got it, is it better to flip those guys back? You've got, look, the Sunday after Labor Day is a long way from now. I mean, we got, we just passed Memorial Day, so we got a long time to figure this out. But I don't think we're done seeing tinkering at this point. It would be nice to be able to settle in and let guys go all the way through, OTAs and mini camp and the break in between and training camp all at the same spot. But I think you're going to see some more movement along the way just to see what the best situation is. And of course, look, right now it's all like you said, it's all t-shirts and shorts. How much are you really finding out there until actually somebody's getting hit come 3rd, 4th day of training camp?
Yeah, I would agree. As far as I would agree that again, you want to try guys at multiple positions because, again, if you have injuries, you'd rather have, as Lenny mentioned, your best 5 on the field. But with that said, they obviously want to find a position for Penning at this point. They did not pick up his 5th-year option.
Right.
Do you think that, again, this is a position that maybe he can, I don't want to say flourish, but can play?
Well, I mean, you say we've been talking about this. I mean, I've been talking about this on my show for over a year now.
Right.
And look, I went into last season thinking there was no hope for Penning. I had pretty much written him off. But I got to say, the one thing that he did shine in last year, moving to right tackle, was that he was actually okay. He was serviceable, and I hate to use the word serviceable because it sounds almost terrible, but he was decent as a run blocker. And so what is the most important thing as a left guard? It's being a run blocker.
Right.
I mean, of course, you need to be able to pass block as well, but that's why I've been advocating for him to move over to left guard because I think it takes a lot of pressure off of him. Not only that, Fuaga, his native position is right tackle. We've been talking about that as well. So, look, Kelvin Banks is a captain. Where do you want your captain? Where do you want your best offensive lineman should be your center, and then you're talking about left tackle to me. Those are the most important things. And so I think common sense dictates where they're lining up this line. They actually could be a pretty decent offensive line, which is interesting because for the last 4 years they've been so bad, and now they don't have a quarterback, and they're going to go into the season with a decent offensive line. So how does that work out? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out that either Shuck or Rattler can take a step because they will have protection. We'll see.
And to your point, again, the reason why I felt that, again, the guard position would be a natural position for him is you're also flanking him with again, two pretty good players. Again, Banks walks in the most decorated player in that locker room in terms of his college career, what the accolades he got. And of course, we know that McCoy is one of the better centers in the NFL. Now, we all have visions of, again, Andres Pete allowing, again, players getting through on passing downs and crushing Drew Brees. That might be an issue, again, in terms of his pass blocking. But again, as you mentioned, with Banks and him on the same side, they're road graders in terms of on the running side of the offense.
Potentially, and you brought up the whole fifth-year option thing. I've heard that a lot. I don't put a lot into that because I think the trend now in the NFL is fewer and fewer teams are picking up fifth-year options, and the reason is it's structured in favor of the player, where you can go negotiate a better long-term deal without having that fifth-year option attached to it that allows for something that's, can be good for the player and good for the team as well. So I don't put a lot into that. But you're right. I mean, potentially this could set up to really be a nice left side of the offensive line if indeed Penning can play that spot.
And in Penning's case, again, they don't pick up the fifth-year option because, again, he hasn't been able to play tackle, okay? And again, he would have got a first-round tender in terms of, again, that fifth-year option. And again, if you're moving him to guard, guards make less than tackles.
Correct, and you're also playing bingo. Right, I mean, if it works out, great. You want it to work out. But if it doesn't work out, there's a reason why they signed Dylan Radins to come in here.
Absolutely.
A guy who started for the Titans in multiple seasons as a starter. I mean, you go into the season thinking, okay, he's your top backup at either guard, and you hope that it works out for Penning. But if it doesn't, you plug Radins in there, and then you just kind of use Penning as depth. But the thing that I love about this offensive line, I haven't said that in a long time, is you talked about depth, but not just depth. The fact that all these linemen are versatile. If Penning works out as guard, then you have somebody that if Awaga gets hurt, you can move him back to right tackle if you have to. You have other guys in there that, Will Clapp can play more than as a backup center, but he can also play guard if you need him to play guard. So the thing that you haven't had on this offensive line for a long time, and I'm glad you're starting out with the positive because people tell me, Derry Downer, you're negative about everything. But this, to me, is the most positive aspect of this offense right now, which goes to show you what kind of 180, 360, whatever you want to call it, that we're doing here, because it's really weird and it's going to take me a little while to get used to.
And you've got to do that on the offensive line. You've got to do that.
Yes.
Offensive line is a position group where, one, if all is perfect, you're playing the same five guys every snap.
Right.
That and quarterback is the only place you're not really rotating guys through. Every other position on the field, well, kicker and punter don't count.
Right.
They're not. Those aren't football players, right? Okay. Offense and defense. Every other position, you're rotating guys through at different times based on different situations and that kind of. Those six spots you're not changing.
Right.
So to be able to figure those five guys out and give them a chance and get flexibility, because the other thing is because you only play five, then on a given Sunday, you've maybe got 7 or 8 up at the most on a given Sunday. So if anything does happen, that's what you've got to be able to do. You're not just going to automatically take this guy off and pull.
Are you sure there's going to be no change at quarterback?
At some point. In a perfect world, things are going well. Look, we saw last year on the offensive line at some point you had to just go make changes. So, in a perfect world, those 6 positions are the only ones on the field of the 22 that you're not changing.
Speaking of fifth-year options, the Saints did pick up the $15 million fifth-year option on Chris Olave, which again to me was shocking, considering again the issues with concussions. There have been a lot of chatter out there that again there are teams that would like to find out the Saints would like to move off of Chris Olave. The Saints need help at the wide receiver position, whether they keep Olave or not. I am concerned about the next hit, maybe the last hit for him as a professional because of the concussion situation. I'll take you first, Jim. Your thoughts on the Saints picking up the fifth-year option, why they did, and do you think he'll be a Saint this season or he will be moved before the season starts or the trading deadline?
I'll take the last one first. I think there's almost no chance that he's moved. When you pick up that option, $15 million, I mean that either if you do move him, you're either going to have to eat a big chunk of that, or you're going to have to get a team to take a big chunk of that. Now, if you were able to get a team to take a big chunk of it, means you're going to get nothing in return. So it just doesn't make any sense that if you're signing this extension or whatever, you're giving him the fifth-year option, it means that you intend to keep Chris Olave for long term. And look, I don't really necessarily have a problem with it. It is a gamble. There's no doubt about it. But what do you have if you don't have Chris Olave? I mean, you can't go into the season, or any season really, with no offense to Rashid Shaheed, but he's not a number one receiver.
Right.
I mean, you're already thin at the position.
Do they have a number one receiver?
I think Chris Olave is a number one receiver. Now, again, I don't disagree with you that one bad hit, and I mean, if the Saints are 2-6, he takes a bad hit and he's got a concussion, you're going to do what you did last year, right? You're going to shut him down. I mean, that's what makes the most sense. I mean, for the kid and for your team, for both. So you are taking a risk, especially when you're talking about what you expect to go into the season. But I actually like the move. I think Chris Olave, when healthy, is a number one receiver. I know a lot of people don't necessarily agree with me. You know, my own producer on my show, he's a 27-year-old, a 20-something who wish they would have moved on from him. But I just think it's the right move.
You can throw a shout out to Gabe out there.
Gabe Henderson is a big help to me. I think Chris Olave is a number one receiver. I think he's at least a top 15 receiver. And look, the going rate. We start talking about all these crazy contracts and crazy Brock Purdy's crazy contract, but that's what it is these days. You just don't get them for free. And $15 million in the grand scheme of things, it's not exorbitant.
Right. And also, it's a placeholder, right? You pick up the fifth-year option with, again, the opportunity to renegotiate a long-term deal if you want to go in that direction. Your thoughts?
Well, with this one, because of just, as Jim brought up, the market value out there for wide receivers. You look at the wide receiver contracts out there. They're insane.
Yes.
I mean, so $15 million is a bargain for a guy who's your best receiver and can be a number one receiver. That said, if it's week 9, week 10, whenever the trade deadline hits this year, whatever that date is, okay, and the Saints are sitting there at 1-7 or whatever they might be, and going nowhere, Chris Olave is Marshawn Lattimore. You're going to go get what you can get.
All right.
Okay, you're going to get what you can get in that situation, and move on and just continue the whole process of trying to rebuild.
The difference there, though, between and Lattimore's hurt a lot too, and we saw he went to the Commanders. He didn't even play until the playoffs. The difference between, I think, Olave and Lattimore is Olave is one big hit away, maybe not one hit away, but one big hit away from the end of his career. Right. And I'm just not sure that any one team is going to be willing to give anything to move on. So are you going to give him away, eat the contract, and get almost nothing in return and do both? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not saying it's not possible. Sure, if he's healthy, but I just don't know what another team is going to be willing to give.
Well, a lot of it's going to depend on what he does in the first half of the season.
True. Agreed.
If he's got 50 catches and 6 touchdowns, or
with this quarterback group,
that make him even look better, I guess. But still, you got to have somebody, some kind of go-to guy for these guys to be able to go to. Yeah, if he's putting up some decent numbers and you're going nowhere, you can best believe that Mickey Loomis and company is going to get phone calls about him. Right. And you've got to make a decision at that point as to what you have. And again, just like they've got that, you're in the same situation. He's that one big hit away from perhaps being done. Right. And what you've invested in him at that point, hey,
take a snowball and a free coupon of Burger King.
That 22 draft with Penning and Olave. I mean, again, when you look at with the draft capital they gave up to move up, again, if both those guys end up again.
But that's proof, though. That's proof about draft, and about these stupid grades after draft. The 22 draft, the grades are still out. We still don't know. I gave up on Penning. Maybe I would give up on him too early. Chris Olave, we still don't know. He could be great.
Right.
He could be.
Got to stay healthy.
I mean, so we don't even know. So that's why, a completely different subject with my ADHD. But I mean, grades after drafts are just so silly. They mean absolutely nothing.
Well, but what I hate in drafts is the whole idea of constantly trading up and using more capital to move up and move up and move up. You don't know what you have all the time.
Right.
And so, the more bullets you have in your holster, or swings to be able to take in the batting cage. Pick your analogy out there.
You're just stirring Eric's pot now.
Okay. Have those chances. If anything, trade down and give yourself more chances, because you never know how things are going to work out. Give yourself more chances to get guys. The way to be successful, as the Saints found out in 2009 and in 2017, 2018, you have to have significant contributors on rookie contracts to be able to do it.
That's right.
And the more swings you've got in the draft to be able to get guys on rookie contracts that might work out, It gives you a better chance to be
100%
successful.
agree. If you're top heavy on the salary cap with aging veterans like the Saints are, it made no sense for years upon years, draft after draft, to be able to, again, package picks to go get one player. You're not one player away. You're not a Super Bowl contender. You get as many young players as you can, and again, try to at first be able to get that cap straight, but also, again, have a chance to be able to see these young players again come in, flourish, and take the place again those aging veterans instead of continue to hold on to those guys. Why? Because you're using those contracts to be able to sign other players.
Not just that, though, Eric. It's the fact that they continue, it's partly that because you talk about the Saints continue to draft as we're going to take best player available instead of their needs. Now, this year, Kelvin Banks, that was obviously a number one need, no question. But to go and take Tyler Shuck in the second round, I don't want a long diatribe on this, but A, you could have got him in the third round. But B, I understand but there are probably 6 quarterbacks that are just like Tyler Shuck in there. I mean, so you're going to use second round draft capital, the 40th pick draft capital, to go out and get a 26-year-old rookie. But it just goes, it's kind of iconic of what they've done in the past to go with what you're talking about. And this team hasn't been one player away for 5 years. And they keep drafting best player available instead of what you need more than anything. And they're finally realizing, hey, that was pretty dumb. And I mean, you go through this draft and some of the players they drafted in this draft. I really like these players. But that's not necessarily what this team needed. You go draft a safety in the third round of the draft, it makes no sense for what this team needed. And so it's not so much who they drafted. Again, jury's still out on some of these guys over the last 3 years. It's what they drafted, and it goes along with what your point. Now you don't have that draft capital, and it goes with Lenny saying you got to hit, and you don't only have to just hit. You have to hit on what you need, and they haven't done that in a while.
I don't have a big issue with the Shuck pick, if for no other reason than this. You went and hired a new head coach who's an offensive mind. You've got to give him a chance to bring what would be, quote, his guy, and give him a chance to bring him along instead of having to do it with, here's the guys we've got here, okay? And obviously, who knew what when about the whole car situation? Did they know that was coming down the line before the draft? We'll never know the answer to that, of course.
But again, you draft a quarterback at 40, you know.
Right.
They knew.
Right. And there was nobody with a grade to be able to take at 9. And look, I think in the grand scheme of things, let it play out, but that was about as good of a situation as you can hope for.
And look, a lot of people have speculated that they wanted Jackson Dart. The Giants went up and got Dart. That left them again without the quarterback that they were really looking at. So they went with their second best option. And I agree with you. I think they could have got him in the third round. But I think at that point they felt like, you know what, we need to go get our quarterback.
So there's no difference than drafting Jackson Dart at 9 than drafting Shuck at 40, in my opinion, because you could have packaged, and we talked about this before, but take somebody else at 40, package your 2 third-round picks and move back into the bottom of the second. He's going to be there. I mean, there wasn't another quarterback taken for how long until the 5th round after Shuck was taken, or however long it was. It was a little while. So that was kind of my point. But, we're going back. The whole point is the Saints have been drafting, again, like they're 1 player away or 2 players away, and they've been doing that for years. They keep going downhill and downhill. You hold on to a Dennis Allen too long. You're just completely devoid of reality. And now reality is slapping this team in the face, and I think what they've done the past couple months has actually, for the most part, been good.
Me too.
So let's hope that they can continue to realize that we've been ignoring reality for the last 4 years.
Well, at some point, you got to, again, even though you don't want to tell the fan base is not stupid. Again, at some point, more than you got to come to the reality. It's time to rebuild.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where they are. Speaking of, what did you think of the draft? Do you like the draft?
You see the grades out there. There was no great sizzle. I don't think they totally whiffed on anything. Obviously, they kept all their picks. Didn't try to move up and go get something. Obviously, like I said, trading back once in a while would be nice if you did that, but you went and took 9 guys at 9 different positions. Right. This team has a lot of needs, so that obviously says something right there. You went and addressed 9 different positions in the draft. And who knows, the best rookie of all, I mean, outside of if Banks is a plug and play left tackle, the best rookie of all might be the punter who they signed as a free agent out of Alabama. So it's he's who knows? It's definitely the chance to make the most impact early on.
Overall, I like the draft. Again, I think the grades are stupid. I'm never going to give a grade again. I mean, so as far as grades go, who cares? Time will tell. I really liked the Banks pick. I thought that was a home run. I thought they needed to do it. A guy who started 40, and he's 21 years old. He started 42 games in college for a major team that was in the SEC last year, the Big 12 before that, whatever. I thought that was a fantastic pick. I think it's obvious what I think about Chuck. I'm not a fan, but I think Devin Neal could turn out to be a great pick. I mean, you talk about, you got Alvin Kamara in the third round, and Devin Neal's obviously a sixth-round pick. It's a little bit different. He's from Kansas, not Tennessee's SEC. Kansas is a little bit different. Yeah. But I think this could be a guy that if he gets on the field, at the bare minimum, he's going to push Kendra Miller. Maybe we'll actually find out if Kendra Miller can play football or not. I mean, so one of those things. So I'm interested to see what happens in the running back room, and then on the other side of the ball, I'm interested in Stutzman, and I think he could come in and start right away. And if you can get a starter, in the fourth round, was it the fourth round? Then I think he's a guy that could play right away. Also another guy I'm interested in.
The other thing, too, is everybody's from a power conference. I know the one, Penning got knocked from day one because the fact he was from Northern Ireland, right?
That's right.
And now, we can't forget, the Teron Armstead from Arkansas Pine Bluff, and there have been other guys who have come from smaller schools. Marcus Colston, you mentioned Evan, guys from not even FBS schools, but you're going down to below that level. So look, I get that, but you got guys that have played at a high level. I think that's fabulous.
And captains.
That's all. That's been a thing now for a while. That's that leadership.
But the Saints had gotten away from that a little bit, and I'm glad that I don't know if this is the Kellen Moore effect. I don't know, which it very well could be. But I like the fact that they went back to the old formula that seemed to work for them. So that's kind of,
especially
again,
if you're rebuilding a culture.
I'm not a huge fan of the what, but I am a fan of the who.
Right. Okay, guys. Again, I always bury the lead on this show. Quarterback. Rattler, Shuck, veteran coming in via trade or again off the waiver wire. Lenny, I'll take you first. What do you think happens there?
I think, based on the fact what we were just talking about, I think Shuck gets every chance to win it. I mean, I think you're going to see reps get split up in all different shapes and forms during the course of camp and through 3 preseason games, and he's going to get his shot not to be the guy. Now, obviously, a lot of people are, I want to say throwing Rattler under the bus, but here's a guy who went, winless as a starter last year. What chance did he have in reality with everything that was, how that whole season was shaping up? So. I think it's going to be one of those guys. I don't necessarily think they're going to the outside unless somebody gets hurt, okay, or somebody just, absolutely falls in their lap out there that they can get for, a 7th round pick. But even then, what is that going to look like? We know. Look, you got to find that guy, whoever it is. We don't know for sure that either one of these guys can eventually be that guy, and the guys who are sitting out there on the street or could potentially land in your lap, none of them, they're all going to be placeholders, if nothing else, until if they're not, you got to find out what you got, because if not, you got to go draft another one in 2026.
All right, Jim, I'm tossing it to you. You came up with a stat that blew everyone's mind on my radio show, on your podcast, and I think it's enlightening.
Well, you talk about, I think it's interesting the Saints are trying to put this positive spin that if you add in the coach's room, you've got all this NFL experience now at quarterback. So it's not just Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler. You've got Scott Tolzien, Kellen Moore, and you got Doug Nussmeier. So I went back into the history books and I found out the starting record. So if you combine the starting record of the quarterbacks the Saints have now, and you add in the coaching staff of Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier, and Scott Tolzien, man, I'm telling you, the record really improves from the 0-7 from the quarterback room. You add in the coaches, it's much better. There's a tie in there. They are 0-14-1. So, I mean, look, there is zero, and you have hope. Great. If you're a Saints fan, you should have hope. Okay, like Lenny says, you're going to go into the season, it's going to be an experimental season. As long as you know what you're going into, you find out if one of these guys can play. But the point is, don't have unrealistic expectations. There is zero doubt, and anyone who says anything different is kidding themselves, that this team is anything but the 32nd quarterback room in the NFL. And it's 31 ain't close, okay? It's not close. So you're going into, who cares? Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler? I mean, it's going to be Shuck. Okay, because Kellen Moore drafted the guy that he wants to play. No offense to Spencer Rattler. I don't mean any. I mean, people might take offense to this, but he was a 5th-round draft pick from Dennis Allen from the last regime, who went 0-6, as Lenny said, 0-7 if you want to count the game that he came into, and he got shut up at the Packers. I don't care what chance he had. He threw to his first read, his hot read, just about every time. So they're going to go into the season with Tyler Shuck as the quarterback, but I don't think it matters. Look, I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope Tyler Shuck comes in there and says, take that, Jim Derry. I ate at Drago's, and the oysters just pumped me up, and I'm ready to go, baby. But 0-14-1, they are the 32nd ranked quarterback room. You've got to prove to me that you're something better than that, and I just don't see it.
So do they go get a veteran with at least one win under their belt in that locker room? And the reason why I said in that quarterback room is I do not buy that that these young quarterbacks are going to feel so comfortable to go to Nussmeier, Tolzien, or Moore when they're having issues with, again, a read, knowing the playbook, whatever it is. They can confide in a player that is in that room. I don't think you go to the coach who's the boss every time again you're having an issue with something and say, hey, can you explain it to me?
I'm going to tell you what I do like, and this is Spencer Rattler because I saw it last year. What I do like from Spencer Rattler is he had no problem going up to Derek Carr in between. You'd see him. Right. The first thing he'd do when he come off the field, go to Derek Carr. If Jake Haener's around, great. Yes. Who cares? But Tyler Shuck, just from what I see so far, I don't think he's going to have any problem doing that. So to answer your question, I would love to see them do that, but it's getting, I don't want to say late in the game because, as Lenny said before, it's only, we're just getting past Memorial Day. But I think if they don't do it soon, they're not going to do it, okay? Because if they don't do it by mini camp, I don't think, you're not going to go into training camp and just go find some veteran. If you have the intention of doing that, you're probably going to do it soon. Who are you going to go get? A Ryan Tannehill or something? You're not going to go get Aaron Rodgers is a joke. He doesn't want to come here. Right. That's not happening. Kirk Cousins is going to be released June 1st. I doubt it.
But those guys are looking to go somewhere where
they can
play.
Start. Correct. And you're not going to want, want someone that's not going to.
You want a guy that's going to be a mentor.
That's why Tannehill would be there. I mean, obviously you'd want, somebody that, Teddy Two Gloves if he wants to come back. Right. That'd
somebody
be great.
Like that.
I think he was happy coaching high school football, and they'll go play for the Lions in December and try to win a ring.
Right.
So in theory, it's a great idea. I just don't see that it's going to happen. I really think that if it was going to happen, it would have happened already.
It's going to be interesting to see again what happens at camp in terms of this quarterback competition, and if it is truly a real competition, or this is again just Shuck's job to lose at this point. We'll see how that works out. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Jim Derry of NOLA.com, the Attitude Podcast. Lenny Vangilder of Crescent Sports and CrescentSports.com is our guest. I'm Eric Asher. I'm your host. We'll be right back to hear from our underwriters. We'll talk some LSU baseball, also some Pelicans. All that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Lenny Vangilder, Jim Derry, our guest tonight. All right, let's talk some college baseball. We'll get to LSU in a moment. Bear with us. Just do want to talk about and give some props to, again, the other teams that made, didn't make, obviously, the regionals, but, again, had a pretty good run in their conference tournaments. Tulane, University of New Orleans, obviously Loyola in the NAIA World Series, and, of course, LSU Shreveport. What is it? Are they
57-0.
57-0 now, and poised to be able to take that NAIA College World Series. Let's start with Tulane first. Your thoughts on how they did?
There's something in the water in Clearwater.
Yes, there is.
Say. I mean, they just, they couldn't get that one more win to get a third straight championship, but they really went down there and played solid baseball again this year. And look, at the end of the year, I mean, Charlotte came in here. Now, Charlotte was a nice team, but Charlotte came in here and swept Tulane at the end of the year. And I said, okay, look, this may be the year that the magic ends and you're not going to make that run. But I give Jay Ullman a lot of credit for getting that team ready to play. He made a gutsy move in starting Michael Lombardi on opening day. And so, look, this guy's my best pitcher right now. He's been my closer most of the year, but I'm going to run him out there and start him and get what I can get out of him. And you got to be in the winner's bracket. And to battle out of the loser's bracket or try to win a tournament ain't going to happen. So he made that move, and then from there, things just kind of snowballed, and they were able to win 3 straight games and get to the championship. And they just ran into a buzzsaw in East Carolina, a team that finally got healthy at the end of the year and put it all together. And who knows? That was obviously a team that was a preseason top 25 team. That's a team that wouldn't surprise me if they made some noise in the regionals this week.
In the Southland, again, first of all, Southeastern, one of the first 4 out. They don't make it to the champion. They don't make again to the championship series of the tournament. But UNO does, and UNO gets hot. Talk about that.
Kudos to them. And again, that was a team that was the number 8 seed in their tournament. Had to go play Southeastern on their home field. Now the good news for UNO was basically close to home. Was 45 minutes away. Their fans could get there. But I think the whole. That whole run 2 weekends ago all got started in the first inning of the first game when there's a pop fly that gets lost in the sun and Bryce Callaway turns it into an inside the park home run. And that really just kind of set the tone. And he was unbelievable. I mean, Callaway was a one-man show, but the only thing he didn't do was go in the stands at Southeastern and sell popcorn, okay? He had 4 home runs and he saved all 3 games. That's crazy numbers. I mean, you don't do that in video games, right? But he was terrific, and, obviously, Houston Christian was playing very well as well. Championship series was at HCU because they were the higher seed, and UNO just couldn't get it done and get those 2 wins to be able to get back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2008.
Right. Jim, I would have liked to have seen in the American Athletic Conference having a championship tournament or championship series like we saw with the Southland, where again you're not just one and done. You get to the winner's bracket, and then if you lose, it's over.
Well, that's the only negative about having all these teams now, right? I mean, you look at the SEC. I mean, they can't do it because you got so many teams in there. And the only way you could do it is if you cut it down. We're only taking 8 or 6 or whatever it is. Otherwise, it's going to be drawn out too long. You have rain delays, and then you're like going into Monday, and you can't do that. And so, but overall, I'd like to see it. It's like the way that the SEC used to do it. That they can't do it like that anymore. But I want to give a shout out. I know we're going to move on, but I want to give a shout out to Loyola and LSU Shreveport. You talk about LSU Shreveport. I've had both Coach Brad Neffendorf of LSU Shreveport and Loyola Coach Jeremy Kennedy have both been on my show in the last couple of weeks. And talking to Coach Neffendorf at LSU Shreveport, they actually embraced the zero. Okay, they've embraced the zero. Usually coaches don't want to. I don't want to talk about that. Whatever they make some. Nah, he was okay to talk about it, and he said, his fellow coaches were telling you really need to lose one beforehand. What are you going to do? So his team is playing really well, and then they 10-run rule an opponent in the winners bracket as they move into the championship series now, and they're in great shape to go 59-0 and win the whole thing. And I just think it's amazing. And for Loyola and what Jeremy Kennedy and his group have done, look, they got a kid that no one probably knows. Look, I covered high school sports. It's a passion of both Lenny and mine. And to see Brandon Mooney, who's their second baseman, who's been their leadoff hitter for 2 years now, he hit somewhere along the lines of .430 for the year. He had 6 or 7 hits in the World Series. One of the games went 4 for 4 with a home run and 2 doubles, and the only reason why he didn't hit for the cycle is one of the doubles was initially called a home run, and they had to review it, and it ended up, they say it hit the wall, so it ended up being a double, but had they let the play go, he probably would have had a triple, would have had the cycle. So, and this kid is then running for NAIA Player of the Year, and no one talks about these small schools, just like Delgado and what Coach Sherman does, and look, and that's one of the things that I'm going to give a shout out to my late friend Ed Daniels, because boy, man, he shined a light on all these schools, and I know that Kenny does as well. And but these schools need some love. Loyola and the likes need some love, and the people are missing out on how well they're doing over there.
There's enough depth. Baseball's good at every level.
Absolutely.
Whether it's NCAA Division I, it's NAIA, it's junior college. I mean, whatever level you're playing. I had a chance to talk to Sean McMullen, the former Delgado and LSU player. The other day, we were working on a story on Joe Sherman for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, and that's the one thing he says is, even when you're at Delgado, you got Division I players all around you. It's just not enough. There's not enough spots to go around for these guys. And if you think you are and there's no spot for you, he's telling other players that we're coming, you need to come here. Get some at bats here, and then you'll get that shot somewhere else. So that's the thing. There's just not enough roster spots to go around. These are Division I players, just maybe not all playing at the Division I level.
Talk about Brett Simpson, what he's been able to do at Loyola.
It's tremendous.
It really is
tremendous. Amazing. I mean, you look at what look, when I was at Loyola, there was no athletic program. It was one of the things that talking with Joe for that story. It's like, of course, his dad was at Loyola when Loyola shut down Division I athletics in 1972.
Right.
Okay, and obviously then they started to bring it back at the NAIA level. Is it time for Loyola maybe to make a jump to whether it's NCAA Division II, maybe even NCAA Division I, what they've done? It costs a lot, but you look at the success they've had across the board. Obviously the basketball national championship, baseball team at the World Series this year, won a lot of conference championships in some of these other sports as well, that they could certainly do some good things if that's what they chose to do. They could be very competitive in some of these. Say you put Loyola in the Southland Conference. Let's say they'd be very competitive.
That's a natural.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting.
Right.
Now, maybe not men's basketball. They would have struggled this year, although they won the NAIA National Championship a couple years ago. But this baseball team, I'm telling you, and I saw them play multiple times this year. I did play-by-play for one of their games, either late January or early February. I don't remember, but this Loyola baseball team could play with the Nichols of the world, even the Southeastern, the UNOs, and would they win? I don't know, but I'd like to see it. I think it would have been fun to watch.
Have you ever heard of a baseball team going undefeated?
Well,
on any level?
It's now a national record.
Right, the record. They've tied the record that was set by a junior college in Texas in the late 2008, 2009. It was 57 in a row. So they're going to break. The next win breaks that record. That you just don't do that in baseball. It's crazy. I remember I've heard stories in high school where you're playing 20, 25 games and it's happened. One point you made about the Southland tournament. I think it's a great idea what they're doing, and they did it in softball as well. They are replicating what the NCAA tournament is doing. They're playing 8 teams with 2 4-team sub-sites on campuses, and then taking those 2 winners and playing. Exactly what the NCAA tournament does every step of the way. But you're talking about giving up a weekend of the regular season to be able to do it. Now, if the NCAA comes along and says, you know what, we're going to let everybody do this, we're going to give you 2 weekends to play this, we're going to extend the season by a week, and we'll give you 2 weekends to play your postseason, I think you'd see other people sign on for it. But until then, I don't think you're going to see, in a money-making conference like the SEC, they're not going to give up a weekend of home games.
You're right.
Well, we also saw that LSU, they played as if they really didn't care that much. I hate to say it that way, but they used their 2 best starters in the same game.
They felt they needed to win one game.
Yeah, win the one game, move on, but they didn't take that tournament seriously.
And make sure they both got work going into
Stay on their
weekend.
100% agree.
You didn't want one of them not pitching.
That was probably the most important thing for them, right? The guys getting the work, right?
No doubt. You don't want guys sitting there and not pitching for a couple. Yeah, you can go inter-squad and things like that, but to get them in a live situation, to piggyback them in that one game, I thought that was a brilliant move by Jay Johnson. Yeah, you win the game. Look, if you happen to lose the game doing that, your other guys, you kind of piecemealing it together anyway. I'm going. I don't think he's tipped his hand on what he's doing. He said he wasn't going to. Honestly,
I don't think you have any idea.
Personally, I would throw a bullpen game against Little Rock and then save your 2 best arms for the Saturday and Sunday. but I wouldn't be surprised again. Remember 2 years ago, he threw Paul Skeens against Tulane.
Yeah.
So it's important to be 1-0. Now, with the weather forecast that we're seeing, though, and we've seen rain here the last couple of days and the uncertainty of the weather forecast, the last thing you want to do is run a good arm out, plan that way, run a good arm out there, and all of a sudden here comes a thunderstorm that shuts you down for 2 hours after one inning, and now you've lost one of your arms maybe for the whole weekend by doing that.
And the difference in that with that also is you're talking about, if you remember, even though Tulane was the 4 seed, then they were like hot. They were, and it's Tulane. You don't want to take any chances on losing to Tulane in that opener, where it's a little bit different against a Little Rock. I think there's a good chance that
those teams. You look at those teams, though, they're a lot alike. They are in terms of, Little Rock had an awful regular season. They were 8 seed in the tournament, but won 5 games in a week in the Ohio Valley tournament. And here they are.
Losing to Tulane and losing to Little Rock are not equal in Southeast Louisiana.
You're right about that.
By the way, we're talking about the Baton Rouge Regional. LSU is 6th overall seed in terms of a national seed, and they need to get the top 8 to have an opportunity not just to host a regional in Baton Rouge, but a super regional in Baton Rouge. They are matched up with the Clemson Regional as well. It's LSU's the number 1 seed in the Baton Rouge Regional, Dallas Baptist the 2nd seed, Rhode Island the 3rd seed, Little Rock the 4th seed. As Lenny mentioned, it is LSU Little Rock on Friday. That's a 2 o'clock first pitch, followed by Dallas Baptist and Rhode Island. Let's get into it. It looks like they found the 3rd pitcher they were looking for. It looks like, again, that the bullpen is coming together. Now the big talking point has been the inconsistency at the plate.
No doubt. They didn't swing it very well in Hoover, and losing a game at South Carolina, before that, certainly you want to be able to swing the bats this time of year. And as we know, it heats up down here, and what happens? The south wind, the ball's going to start carrying a little bit. So you want to be able to hit the long ball as well. So we'll see how that all plays out. I may not be as concerned as some other people, although obviously Ole Miss was playing well at the pitching well as well at the end of the year. And held LSU to 2 hits in the semifinals. So. You try to flush that. You come back out here, back in the friendly confines of the box, and see where that goes. But you brought up that regional. That looks like a number 1 overall seed regional that LSU got handed to them. Rhode Island is the lowest seeded number 3 in the country. Okay. Little Rock is, I would say lowest seeded. They are the lowest RPI, number 3. Little Rock has the worst RPI of any team in the tournament. So you got the worst 3 and the worst 4 being sent here. Now, Dallas Baptist is a nice team. Had they won the Conference USA tournament, they could have been in a hosting discussion. Okay, so they're a nice 2, but they're also not from a power conference. This is the only regional in the country that does not have a Big 12 ACC or SEC team traveling into it, of all the 16 regionals.
2 words for you. Stony Brook. I mean, you can't take anything for granted. And look, Dallas Baptist scares me. Exactly what Lenny said. They're not just a nice 2 seed. They might be the best 2 seed. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I know there's Arkansas and there's some other there are SEC schools as 2 seeds, but I'm talking about 2 seeds that scare you as far as rankings go and RPI numbers. Dallas Baptist is up there, and LSU has had their struggles with those kinds of teams before. I agree that Rhode Island and Little Rock are throw-ins. Dallas Baptist should roll past Rhode Island. I don't think that's any issue. But, man, that Saturday game, that's why I think it's even more important to have a bullpen game. And, if it's Anderson, whoever it is, pitching on Saturday. And I know that's not the day they're trying to keep them in that schedule or whatever, but you've got to take Saturday super serious. And if it's LSU Dallas Baptist on Saturday, they got to go in there with a mindset of, hey, this is no different than playing Ole Miss. And, like you said, they're not hitting the ball great right now. They're going to have to figure out how to do that as well. But you got to get that pitch, and you got to go into it thinking this might be a 2-0 game. This might be a 3-2 kind of game. And I hope that's the mentality that they have.
Do you throw out the 7-3 win early in the season up in Arlington?
It's a midweek game. It's a midweek game. It would have been no different. Let's just say, let's say Southeastern could have ended up here, for instance, or someone else that they played over the course of the season. I mean, LSU ruled Southeastern in the middle of the week. You wouldn't put any stock in that because, again, you're experimenting with your lineup in the middle of the week. You're throwing a bunch of pitchers in the middle of the week. Same kind of thing. Yeah, whatever it is, you're doing things in a Tuesday night game or a Wednesday night game that you wouldn't do on the weekend. So I don't I don't put, and it was also in February.
Yeah.
These are totally different teams now. Yeah.
You concur?
Absolutely, 100% agree. I always think it's funny when a Nichols or a Southeastern or whoever it is, or a UL gets super fired up because they beat an LSU on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Who cares? I mean, because I promise you, LSU doesn't care. I mean, you go into every game wanting to win.
Sure.
But like Lenny said, you're not going in it with the same strategy on a Tuesday or a Wednesday that you're going to go into it with on a Saturday at the end of May or early June. You just don't.
13 teams again in this year's regionals from the SEC, eclipsing their record of 11 last year. As I mentioned, LSU and the Baton Rouge Regional matched up with, again, the Clemson Regional, which includes Clemson, Kentucky, West Virginia, and University of South Carolina upstate. So again, we'll see how that plays out. If they were to match up, and let's say, who do you think comes out of that Clemson Regional?
Clemson's obviously a good team. Clemson and West Virginia were teams that were playing very well up until about a month ago, and they kind of fell off a little bit. Clemson could have been a top 8 national seed and kind of fell off a little bit. West Virginia could have been a regional host, a month and a half ago. They kind of fell off towards the end. A team like Kentucky, they were the last team to get in out of the SEC, and they're the 3 seed in that regional. Yeah. But they still came out of the SEC. So, let's see. I mean, any one of those 3 teams, if they get through, keep this in mind. Had LSU gotten out of North Carolina last year, which they flirted with doing, right? They would have come home.
Yeah.
And they would have played West Virginia here. So maybe does that happen a year later? Who knows? So it's but that could have very well happened then.
You like LSU's chances of getting through this regional and getting to and hosting next week?
Oh yeah, I mean everything I said about look, I completely mean everything that I said, but I personally think that LSU overall from top to bottom is the best team in the country. So I think they should get out of this regional relatively unscathed. I think it'll be Clemson next week, which it goes back, gives you kind of shades, thoughts to North Carolina, but this one's in Baton Rouge, right? Because Clemson, ACC, blah, 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 whatever. So I just think they're going to be tough to beat in Baton Rouge with this team. Jay Johnson's mentality, and the team takes the coach's mentality. And I just think that LSU is going to be tough to beat, even when they get to Omaha, because that's where I feel like it's Omaha, boss.
Right. Well, it's going to be the SEC Invitational, very possibly. And Omaha. 6 of the top 7 seeds in the tournament are from the SEC. That's sad. And look, we know how good we know how good some of these other teams are. Obviously you got some hosts that are that would have to potentially travel for a super regional, and you got some very good 2 seeds out there. You got Alabama coming to Southern Miss to play. So there's a lot of those 2 and 3 seeds. Mississippi State going to Florida State. They're all dangerous as well.
Let's shift gears to the Pelicans with the time that we have left. Will Gilroy reported this week from The Athletic that the Pelicans are going to stick with Zion Williamson. Again, I don't think it's a surprise considering Dumar's coming in. Look, he sees the talent. He sees the possibility. He's got to at least give a shot to see if he can get the most out of Zion Williamson. So I want to table that, but I want to talk about the 7th overall pick and where you think that the Pelicans will go. Do you think the Pelicans will look at that pick as a chess piece to be able to move to get another veteran to come in, or do you think they will go with either a point guard, a floor spacer, or a big?
Well, I think you need to make the pick and keep the pick first of all.
I would agree with that as well.
And I mean, obviously, there's some talent that you see all the different mock drafts out there and what might happen. But I think right now all you got to do is look. Every pro sport that we know is a copycat to a certain degree. When Philly started running the tush push, you had other people thinking about, okay, how do we do the same thing? When this scheme went out there, we got to try to do this and that, right? Okay. Look in basketball right now. The best team in the NBA is probably Oklahoma City. Am I right?
Yep.
This is the youngest team to make an NBA Finals in almost 50 years.
Right.
So I think you've got to operate, with trying to get the right young guys in here, much like we talked about with the Saints, getting those guys on those, having some success on those rookie contracts before they start getting the big money. Because again, the way the NBA salary cap is structured, you're only going to get so many of those guys.
That's right.
Okay, you're only going to get two or three at the most. And I mean, you've got a lot of that in place already, but you've got to get some younger guys in there to ideally excel, and with the right pieces in place, and it's all a big jigsaw puzzle. That's the way to get it done. I like the two guys from Duke that seemingly come up in the conversation there around
Knipple,
6, 7, 8.
Malak.
Right. I mean, that's I think either one of those would be a good add.
And then both of them could be there at 7.
Yeah, and then they'll have a decision to make if that's the case.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously, there's another guy from Duke you would have liked to be able to get your hands on at one, but, the ping pong balls didn't bounce your way.
Yes, that's right.
They were never going to bounce their way. They didn't bounce at all.
Right.
Don't get me started.
No, they didn't. They
didn't really bounce.
Jim and I are on the same page on that one.
Don't get me started.
All right, Jim, you got the last word on this.
Look, I think that as far as Zion goes, it's exactly what you said. I mean, Joe Dumars wasn't going to come in here and his first move was going to be to ship Zion. I mean, that would have made no sense. That being said, though, if this team can't take a major step forward, I think they're in the same boat as their counterparts are, in the same, across the parking lot. I think if they don't take a huge, and I mean a huge step forward. I mean, I'm not talking about, win 39 games and maybe you're hoping for a play-in with 2 weeks to go. No, this team has to be either a playoff team or the best, the 7 seed, and they're right on the cusp, right there. One of those things, because the people that said are not going to accept this anymore. I mean, they're going to have. I mean, it's different from the Saints. You're going to have 7,000 people at games. You're going to have 5,000 people at games. They're going to be talking about moving this team. That's where they are right now. They've got to take that next step, which is another reason why you want to keep a Zion Williamson too. So, look, whatever they do in this draft, I'm not sure. I know Lenny talks about keeping your picks, and maybe you trade down and get an extra pick. I don't know, but whatever it is, this team has to take this next step. It won't just be Willie Green. It won't be just Zion Williamson. It'll be a whole bunch of them saying bye-bye to the city of New Orleans, and maybe the Pelicans too, if they can't get something moving on pretty soon.
I think you get a quality player at 7. And I don't think you have to move down, move up. I think you get a quality player at 7. I think you get somebody that can contribute. You need that. Because of your salary cap, you need players that are on rookie contract.
They did well with their pick last year.
They did. I'm telling you, again, they drafted well. Again, the problem is, again, getting the most out of those draft picks when you have them on your roster. And maybe there's a glimmer of hope for small market teams now, with the new CBA, with the second apron, and what we're seeing now in the conference finals with now Oklahoma City again getting into the finals, possibly again Indiana again joining them, and 2 small market teams, and maybe just maybe we're seeing a little bit of a shift now from teams that pay the luxury tax and really again pay for the opportunity to win a championship, where again you have to have and have nots in the NBA. We shall see if this is an anomaly or this is real, but again it is a step in the right direction, and it is what the NBA has been trying to do for a while now, to be able to get away from again these major the big cities, the major markets again being in a position to win championships, and everybody else is just taking checks.
I think it's the reason why, I mean, both in basketball and baseball, that they're losing viewership, because people are tired of the same old big name stories making it to the same. And look, NFL's taking a hit. Look at everything. If Kansas City was winning, they were tired of the same old.
Right.
They were tired of Kansas City winning, so everything was, of course, the refs were cheating or whatever. So, I mean, people want different stories. That's what's great about the NBA this year, like you say, and I agree with you. I hope it's not an anomaly.
Me too.
And baseball needs to look at this and do similar things.
Lenny Vangilder, Jim Derry, thanks so much for joining us today on Inside New Orleans Sports. Great job.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen that will take you to the WLAE-TV YouTube page, also to my website, ericasher.com. Remember, again, between WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV2, and Pelican Sports Television, so many ways to catch the program. I say it every week. Set your DVR. You'll never miss the show. You can catch me weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 106.7 The Ticket. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Also, the 106.7 The Ticket has our own app, iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, other digital platforms to catch the program. And of course, again, we want to thank Lenny and also Jim for joining us, but I also want to thank our underwriters who make our show possible. Please support the underwriters who support our program. And of course, we thank our folks here at WLAE-TV who produce our program every single week and do a fantastic job. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Maggie Ellis, Ava Hickory, Ava Hickey, who is new with us today, Alex Chacon, and the best director on the planet, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Eric Asher. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, I'm Keith Spiro from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is WLAE-TV afternoon talk show host Scoot Pesant. Scoot, over the years you've had big hair and big glasses. Which is more key to your persona, do you think?
Probably the hair.
Probably the hair. It is your signature, and it's still great.
Yeah, listen, I'm very fortunate, I'm very fortunate.
We'll talk about big hair, big glasses, and much more this week on Let's Talk.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.